This is Jill Pack with the Seasons of Joy podcast. This is episode number 88, entitled The People Pleaser's Guide with Mikki Gardner. Are you a woman of faith who is struggling to navigate your current season of life? Do you feel like life is just happening to you instead of for you? My name is Jill Pack. I'm a certified life coach and a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I want you to know that no matter your season or circumstance, it is possible to create a more joyful life. And I would love to show you how. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy to be here. This is going to be a fun episode. But before I get started, I wanted to remind you of a couple of things. There is links in the podcast for the 5-day relationship reboot challenge, as well as another freebie that I have entitled Mending the Rift. Both of these resources are for you to use to help you navigate challenging relationships in your life. They are a resource to help you choose how you want to show up in those relationships, and it gives you tools to help you do that. So look for those links. I also wanted to talk about something really exciting that I'm starting in January of 2024. There is a link in the show notes about my Season of Connection group coaching program. I'm so excited for this. This is an opportunity for you to see what coaching is like on the group level. This is going to be 6 weeks, and it's going to include deep diving, a workbook, the consistency of a weekly call to really implement the concepts that I teach on this podcast and in my coaching program to help you create greater connection in your relationships in a group setting. If this sounds like something you're interested in, I would love to have you join me. Who doesn't want greater connection in their life? I know I did, and I just didn't know how to do it. And so when I hired a coach, I began to understand what I had control over and what I didn't. And I could actually create the relationships that I wanted in my life, regardless of the other people in my life, right? I get to decide who I want to be in those relationships. And so I want to show you how to do the same thing. I want to provide you with tips and tools and coaching that will help you show up in your life as the person you want to be, thereby creating greater connection with those in your life and with yourself and with God. There's so many connections that we have because we are surrounded by relationships. So if this sounds like something that interests you, please go to the show notes, click the link, and join me as we begin this journey together. And again, it begins in January 2024, and I hope to see you there. So now I want to tell you a little bit about my friend, Mikki Gardner. Mikki is a certified life plus conscious parenting coach. She's a mom, a speaker, and the host of the Co-Parenting with Confidence podcast, and the author of the book that we will be talking about today on this podcast, The People Pleaser's Guide to Co-Parenting Well. Mikki strives to guide moms to navigate the divorce and co-parenting drama by becoming calm, confident co-parents, even without their ex's participation. Mikki is on a mission to help children by helping their moms learn to handle the emotional and practical difficulties of divorce and co-parenting while creating an intentional, joyful, and ease-filled life for both themselves and their children. You're going to love this conversation. Mikki has such a calm and gentle demeanor that I think you will be able to take some really good information to help you whether you're divorced or not. But if you are divorced and you're navigating this season of co-parenting, this is the perfect opportunity to learn more about her book and why she wrote it. So now on to my conversation with Mikki. Okay. All right. Welcome to the podcast. I am with Mikki Gardner. I'm so excited to have her She is a coach colleague of mine. We worked together closely in a program I did and learned so much from her. And so I'm honored to have her on. She's going to share a little bit about herself and what she does. So, Mikki, take it away.
Thanks, Jill, for having me. I'm just so excited to get to talk to you today.
Yeah.
Um, I'm a certified life and conscious parenting coach. I'm the host of Co-Parenting with Confidence podcast. So clearly, I'm all about co-parenting. I'm also a mom to a 13-year-old son and to 2-year-old dog who keeps me busy. um, but I am also I'm so excited because next week, I don't know when this is airing, but for me in real time here next week,
Yeah.
my book, The People Pleaser's Guide to Co-Parenting Well, is coming out. And so I am beyond excited for this to happen. Because if you haven't figured out, I am a co-parenting coach and I really love supporting women and moms post-divorce, post-separation, learning how to navigate co-parenting with calm and clarity and confidence so that they can be the creators of their peace, not just trying to keep the peace with everyone around them.
I
And yeah, so that is kind of what I do in my niche. I really, really, really believe firmly in my bones that every mom has the power to create a harmonious environment for her children, regardless of what her ex is doing. And I am on a mission to help moms do that and to figure that out. And, I came by it honestly, like I think so many of us do. I got married, had a business, had a house, checked all the boxes for that happy life. And unfortunately, or fortunately, it didn't turn out that way. And I got divorced. And it was never a path that I intended to do or to navigate, but it ended up really being true transformation for me. And now it's really just my honor and privilege to walk the journey with moms and women now who are navigating that path.
Yeah, I love that so much. So, this podcast actually will probably come out the day your book's released. So,
Oh my
when
gosh,
people
it's
listen to
launch
this,
day.
yeah, when people listen to this, they can just go buy it. They can buy it that day.
That's so exciting.
Yeah, so very, very exciting. So, what led you to write this book?
So the book has been on my heart for a long time. I coach moms one-to-one. Again, I really love walking the journey. I know that you do too, Jill, of being in community with someone, of really being that mentor and coach and support system. But I also want that help and resources to be accessible to everyone. So while I have my podcast and I try to talk a lot there, this book has just been on my heart a long time. And so I just decided that I was going to sit down and see what happened. And much to my surprise, as a recovering people pleaser, I really was seeing through threads in my own life, through my clients' lives, the women that I talk to every day, how this whole people pleasing issue was really detrimental, especially in a co-parenting type environment. And so many of us are people pleasers, and it's tricky because compromise and pleasing others is inherent in relationships. That's just being a good wife, a good mom, a good whatever, right? We all want to do that. And so you say, well, of course, Mikki, of course I want to please people, right? And people pleasers are also really awesome because we're super helpful, we're really loving, we're accommodating, we are uber efficient, we get all the things done, and we're praised for keeping the peace, being all of these things. But people pleasing has a shadow side. And that shadow side is when we prioritizing pleasing others at the expense of ourselves. And essentially, people pleasing is really just when we are not able to handle the discomfort and the unease that we feel inside of ourselves. And so we just focus on everything around us, trying to level it out and keep the peace, so to speak, instead of really creating our own. And so as I was telling the stories of my incredible clients that I am just so honored to watch their transformation, that's really what I wanted the book to be about, was women just like maybe your listener who's listening, who's been through this journey of how they really learned how to stop reacting and getting triggered and start taking full responsibility for their 50% of this relationship. And they really started learning how to value themselves so that they could start showing up in a different way. And so I wanted to highlight them as the examples of how this work is profoundly transformative, and really very simple, not easy, but
Yeah.
very simple.
Yeah. I love that. I think that the stuff we teach is pretty simple,
It is.
but it takes a lot of work. Like it
Yes.
really does take a lot of work because it's so um doesn't come naturally to us because
Mhm.
of how we have kind of been conditioned to handle conflict in our life,
Yeah.
right? And different things. So I love the phrase you said, and it sounds like it's in the title of the book, is um stop people
Stop
pleasing.
playing. It's how to stop playing peacekeeper and
Yes, that's it.
start parenting peacefully. Yeah.
Yes.
It's a reframe, it's a
Different.
different perspective.
Yes. Because for so many women, I think, especially, I'm sure there's men that do this, but I work with women. So, right, like we feel like it's our job to manage the peace of everyone around us,
Mhm.
right? Like it's
Mhm.
our job to make the peace. And so we've
Absolutely.
got to bend over backwards to make that happen. And the other thing that stood out to me that you said was because we can't handle the uncomfortable
Mhm.
emotions within ourselves. Like
Yes.
that's really powerful. Speak to that a little bit more.
Yeah, so that is the root of where people pleasing comes from, right? When we are unable to handle and deal with the discomfort, with the unease that we feel inside of ourselves, we then start to focus outward, externally, trying to control all the other people in our lives. Unfortunately, God gave us all free will. So there's a huge hiccup in that plan of being
Yeah.
able to control others.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
agree, my clients will say, well, if they would just listen to me, it would be so much better. I agree with you most of the time, but they're just not going to do it. So we can
Yeah.
fight that fact, or we can start to really become the energy and become the version of us that actually starts to create change. Instead of being part of the problem, we learn how to be part of the solution. And that starts internally. That starts with learning how to create your own peace, to ground yourself, to calm yourself so that you're not just reacting. I think a lot of what we're seeing in the world is just simply people living in this autopilot reactive zone. And then, you might come up for air and realize, like, have you ever had that where you do something and then 10 minutes later you're like, how on earth did I just do that? Or why did I say that? Or how did
Yeah.
I even get here? Like, you're in the middle of a fight. I did it with my kid the other day and I was like, whoa, no, 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 no. And he's like, oh gosh, mom, come on. Right. Like I had the epiphany, I've been triggered
Yeah.
and I'm like, ah, ha, ha,
Ah,
we're stopping. And he's
yes.
like, oh gosh, here she goes.
Yes.
Right. But that's our first moment of awareness of when we do sort of stop and we're like, wow, how did I get here? This is the moment to kind of grab a hold of and to say, okay, I've been triggered, I'm reactive, now what?
Yeah.
Right? Not beat ourselves up or act like it didn't happen or blame the other people. No, to really start to take ownership and awareness about, okay, what's really going on here? Because it's only when we're aware, which is the first part of the framework, is really learning how to become aware of what's going on so that we have the ability to change.
Yeah. And I loved how you said, like, it's that the honesty piece and the responsibility for the role we
Mhm.
play, right? Because I think in those situations, whether it's a divorce situation or an adult child or
Mhm.
a married, you're still married, right? It's when we're trying to change somebody and we put
Mhm.
blame on them for the things that are going wrong, we're never going to create that peace for ourselves. We're always going to
Mm-mm.
bump up against that wall of resentment. I mean, there's so much
Mhm.
resentment that comes with being a person that is so busy trying to please everyone else in their life.
Yeah, so that's I have like a little assessment in the book, and that's one of them. Do you feel frustrated or resentful often?
Yeah.
you surely are people pleasing, right? Because
Yes.
resentment is really just when we believe there is someone standing in the way of what we want. That builds resentment, right? And so when we think the other person is in our way, right, and we try to people please our way around it, inevitably that's what we're doing. And so to be able to take an honest look in the mirror. I'm a recovering people pleaser,
Oh,
right? I
me
am,
too. 100%.
right?
Yeah.
And I do it every day, and every day I try to catch myself, right? And again, we're awesome. I don't want people to take away like the people pleasing is this horrible thing. It can be a really beautiful gift and part of being an extraordinary mom and woman and human. But it's really when that shadow side comes up where you're doing it at your own expense. And I think the other thing that I like to point out is that you come by it honestly, because people pleasing isn't a personality trait or just the way that you are. It's a learned behavior, it's a coping skill that we learn as children to try to create safety from an unsafe world, where we try to create certainty from an uncertain situation, right? So if we grow up in a house where there's a lot of yelling, we might become the peacekeeper to try to calm things down and make ourselves feel better. If we might try to put on the persona of being a really good girl, right? So that we get the love and affection that we're after. And as a child, that is the mask that we need to wear. And it's okay, right? Like we have to learn those things to be able to move through childhood. It's that when we're still wearing it as an adult, that's when we start to really, it's like we've outgrown the mask, but we're trying to act like it still fits and it just
Yes.
doesn't. And so
Yes.
that's when we want to really start to look at it, because when we are reactive and lying and people pleasing is essentially not telling the truth or lying, we inevitably create a lot more mess that we have to clean up later.
Yeah.
So this is just a way of creating less mess to clean up later.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that because I think when we can really I have a coach that calls it telling the whole truth,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I think that touches on your idea of like that people pleasing is in of itself isn't this horrible, awful thing that sometimes can be portrayed, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the whole truth is you love this person, but you also are struggling in this way or
Yeah.
not feeling secure in this way, right? And so it's the both, and I think that is a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing better than being able to please the people that you love
Yeah.
when it's coming from a place of peace and honesty and truth,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's what we're going for. And
Yeah.
it's when we're not being
Yeah. Because the
truthful.
people,
That
yeah, to that extreme, it's like we aren't being honest.
mm-mm.
We're doing it in a way to manipulate or control something outside of us,
Yeah.
oftentimes.
As I was writing the book, I was remembering back to, I've been divorced about 10 years, and I was really remembering back to that time when I was so busy people pleasing, but it was just control. It was trying to control everyone around me. And the level of anxiety and there was a lot of anxiety and depression and all of that happening inside of me. I couldn't cope with what was happening inside of me. And so I tried to do it. I tried to make everybody else be okay. And I opened the book with a story about my little son. He was 3 or 4 at the time. I think he was 4, and it was a little while after we'd been divorced. And he wasn't doing well. He was, showing classic signs of, just struggling. And that's unfortunately what happens to children of divorce. Even in the quote unquote best of scenarios, it's still really hard on our kids. And he was showing these signs and I couldn't handle it. I
Mm.
needed him to be okay to prove that I was okay. And I took him, I did all the thing, you name it, I was doing it, right? The supplements, all the this and that. And we ended up in the naturopath's office, and she was going to do this battery of all these tests. And she left the room, and my ex and my son and I are all sitting there. It was my birthday, I remember. And she left to go get the test started. And my son looked at me and he said, "Mama, why are we here?" And I gave him my speech. Well, we're going to fix it. We're going to get the resources. We're going to make everybody feel better. And he looked me dead in the eye and he goes, "But Mama, I don't think I'm broken."
Mhm.
And I realized in that moment, my brokenness is what I was projecting onto him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a lot of times as people pleasers, we're trying so hard not to let people see it, but we don't realize that that's the mirror we're holding up.
Yeah.
And so when we can get real honest and look at it, and I don't want this book to be a downer, I want it to be really this offering of hope and inspiration on how to move forward so you don't have to do that and you just get to be the brightest, lightest, most loving version of you.
Mm-hmm. I love that because I think sometimes for people, like I don't know, they hang on to certain things, right? And that feels like the control or the false perception of control feels like
Mm-hmm.
freedom in a way, right? But when we can embrace what is, when we can let go of this need to control everything and just be honest about where things are, that's where
Yeah,
real freedom begins, right? Because we
100%.
no longer have to hold on to all those things, right? Or even that mirror that we're holding up, right? We can
Yeah.
just let that all go. And it's like acceptance, awareness and acceptance are
Yeah.
the path to freedom, really.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think it's our job, oftentimes, especially with divorce, we can focus, there's a lot of, I'm just going to say it, there's a lot of exes that aren't pleasant, that have
Yeah.
done a lot of things which led to the divorce. Right. And so it's very easy to point in that direction and say, well, look at all the things that they're doing. Right.
Yeah.
But really learning how to protect your own well being, learning how to speak up with truth and conviction and hold boundaries that protect your peace instead of waiting for them to change so that you can feel peaceful. You'll be waiting a long time, right? And so
Yeah.
it's really learning how to do that for yourself and learning how to cultivate true calmness and groundedness so that you have the clarity of decision making, right? Because those things all lead to you being able to reclaim your freedom,
Yeah.
to being, not getting drained by the conflicts, but so that you can welcome energy and time and love into your life so that you can really focus on what matters.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. So describe to listeners a little bit the makeup of the book. So you mentioned that there's some stories in there from
Mhm.
clients and kind of their transformation. And then you mentioned a quiz of some kind. So maybe give like
Yeah.
an overview of the journey that people could see through this process.
Yeah. Oh, what a great question. So there is an assessment in case you're one. I mean, I think if you picked up the book, you might know, you might have an inkling that you may be a people pleaser, but there's an assessment in there so that you can see, if you check a few of those boxes, likely you have some tendencies. But again, it's not a character, um, it's not who you are. It's simply a coping mechanism that is simply out of date. And so, what we want to do, and I take them through the process, which is a simple framework to learn how to move out of people pleasing and into becoming the creator of your own peace. And it really is, like you said, awareness, right? Awareness of the moment and what is actually happening versus the story that we have in our head. That's where we learn how to realize we get triggered, realize we're having big emotions, realize we're being reactive, and hitting the pause button and taking 3 deep breaths. I mean, my kid watches me do the deep breathing thing all the time. He's like, oh, here we go again. She's doing the
Mom's
breathing thing.
breathing.
Mom's breathing. Yes, so that I don't hurt you. Like I'm
Let me
calming
breathe.
myself down, you know? So but it is something that we have to learn how to do to regulate our nervous system, so that, because when we are dysregulated, when our nervous system and our sympathetic nervous system is taken over, we're flooded with all of these fight or flight emotions. We're triggered, we're having big emotions. Our thinking brain can't get online until we've calmed the other one down, right? It's like, so we have to be able to do that, and that's the first step, which is awareness. The second step that I walk them through is agency, which is a fancy word for choices,
Mhm.
right? And the universe made it super simple. We only ever get 3. We can accept something, meaning, can I accept the situation exactly as it is and move on without anger or resentment? If you can, awesome. No need to have a conversation. If not, can you change it? Not can you change that other person or the situation, but can I change something about how I'm coming to this that will shift? And do I want to? If the answer is yes, great, go do that. If you can't, the third option is to leave. And that's either figuratively or literally. And sometimes, it's leaving energetically. It's leaving through not engaging anymore. Might be physically leaving, right? There's a number of ways. So that's the second step, is really learning the choices that we have available and then taking the aligned action towards what we want, right? This is where we learn how to take responsibility. And I define that as the ability to respond instead of react. So the book, you asked me about the book is really sort of, I start with sort of how I came to realize that I was a people pleaser. And then this 3-step framework that I teach all my clients. And then the rest of the book is really the beautiful women and one guy, I will say,
I love
who
it.
I love him for being so, he was an amazing client. And I love men that are able to be present and open and learn and grow. And so I wanted him to be in there too, because there are really, really, really good men out there doing their best. And this isn't specific to women. It's not specific to co-parents. These 3 things are just simply how we adult. It's how to be a successful adult in the world. And so the rest of the book is really the stories of watching them transform and learn and grow, most of the time, even when their exes don't help. A couple of them did, right? And I think that's the point, is that when we learn to actually become the creator of our own peace, the ripple effect of that goes so far we will never know, right? The amount of change, and you're changing you, your children's experience, your children's experience. Like when we really become creators of peace, we shift every room we're in. And to me, that is what we are obligated to do here on earth. That is our soul's mission here, is to start to really shift and be the presence and the love that we want to see.
I love that. That's so beautiful. So, yeah. So what is that like the biggest takeaway that you would, say they could have, is they can become the creator of their peace, regardless of what X is doing. That's the goal of this book, is to show them how to be the peace creator.
Because the way that I help my clients, and I hope and pray that it came across in this book, is really teaching you the simple, doable, repeatable process of taking 100% responsibility over your 50%.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not relying on toxic positivity or affirmations or anything, but it's really about, again, teaching you that repeatable way to create and sustain lasting change.
Yes.
Right. We don't want to just change for change's sake. We want to create lasting, sustainable change. And I help you do that by creating a vision and a plan for you and your family that's based on your values, right? What matters to you? Because when it matters to you, you're more connected and committed, even when it gets hard. Yeah. And so that's really my hope, is that learning how to do this, you will then reshape your entire world, and you will create more harmony in your home for you and your children. Yeah. And I think that, again, that ripple effect, and while I think my clients are amazing, they're actually just like you and me and your listeners, right? These are average, normal women who have extraordinary courage to learn and to grow and to try and to fail and to figure it out. And so that's why I wanted to show their stories, so that the reader could really see themselves within the pages of it, so they can see that they have the ability and the capability to do this too.
Yeah, I love that, because I think that when we hear other people's stories and we see how they've created something different, it gives us hope. It gives us, like, we can kind of insert ourselves in there, because we're all humans. We understand this human experience. And so to see someone else kind of overcome some of those challenges is so hopeful for ourselves. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
And I think that's how children don't listen to anything that we say, but they learn by everything that we do.
Yeah.
And so it really even doesn't matter the age, toddler, teenager, adult child. I really believe that it is everyone is watching you versus listening,
Yeah.
right? And so it's really about making sure that you're doing your own work so that your thoughts, your words, your actions all line up together.
Yeah. And I've had kind of this, I've been thinking about this for a while. It's just this idea like you and I teach, like we can't make people feel anything. We can't, we can't change people,
No.
but man, we influence. We can influence by
Oh,
how we show
absolutely.
up in those conversations, right? Like we influence. We can create an experience differently by showing up differently, even for other people, right? Like we can.
Abs- yeah. I tell people all the time, it's like everybody wants to be an influencer these days. Be
Yeah.
an influencer in your own home.
Yes.
Right? Really start to influence because you're influencing the energy in every room you walk into.
Yes.
So be conscious, be aware of what is that? What is the ripple effect I'm offering? And do I like it? And if
Yeah.
you don't like it, here's the great news. Change it. You
Yeah.
absolutely have the capability to do it. And I think one of the things that I know to be true about divorce and co-parenting is it is very lonely and alienating. There is, even though 60+% of marriages end in divorce now, you feel like you're the only one.
Mhm.
And so I really encourage you, a listener who's listening who is experiencing divorce or has, really learning how to reach out and get into community, whether that's therapy for healing, whether it's coaching, whether it's a support group, whether it's through your church.
Mhm.
Reach out because we are not meant to do this alone and we need the support of each other. And the more that we can band together, the stronger we are. And so I really just believe we all need to do that more and more. And I'm hoping between the book and the podcast and the work that I do with my clients
Mhm.
that I'm helping shift in some small way.
Yeah. I love that. Um, I think that's a good invitation. Yeah, to leave is maybe listening to this might inspire someone to reach out to someone for support
Yep.
and build up that those people that will surround you and help you through this thing. So maybe
Yeah,
that's an action someone could take today is just reach out. Just reach.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And if
Yeah.
you know someone who is walking through divorce right now or
Yes.
struggling with co-parenting, whether it's the book or the podcast or this sharing this podcast with them, oftentimes we're like, oh, I don't want to bother anybody. No, if it came to you and it's on your heart to do, please share.
Yeah.
Because again, you don't have to know the perfect words, but when you are going through something like divorce or loss, I mean, it is a loss and there's a grieving process. You don't have to have the perfect words, but just saying, like, hey, I heard this and thought of you, or I saw this book and thought of you, just that act of loving someone is profound. And so, yeah, I think we all need to just do a better job of reaching out and holding, linking arms.
Yeah.
And so I love that you're doing that with me today. Thank you so
Yes.
much, Jill,
Yeah. I'm so
and that we do that for others.
Yeah, we're all in this together. That's what I
100%.
like. Let's just help each other. So I love that you added that because I was thinking that same thing as you started to say that is like if you know someone, because chances are that person may not feel like reaching out because
Yeah.
they're in that place where they feel alone.
Yeah.
So yeah, so be the reacher outer. Be the
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know anybody who, I mean, no one in my family had been divorced. I had no friends that had been divorced. I knew no one.
Mhm.
And I really held tight to that. I'm the only one. I was this island. And that's why I do the work I do now, is because I made so many mistakes. And if I can help another mom make just like 10% less than I did, that would be amazing, right?
Yeah,
Because I made so many.
yeah,
And we do that when we're in isolation, when we don't know. And so I think and if it's not me, there's so many good
mm,
resources out there. So definitely just reach out for help. It is an act of true bravery and courage.
yeah. Yeah, I love that. If you were going to share any final thing, like something that you hope that they will take, something else they take from this conversation, or maybe something we haven't said that you would love to get across to people that are listening, what would that be?
I think I want moms to know that they have far more control and influence over their children's experience than they believe.
Mm.
And their kids do not need them to rescue them. They simply need to watch their mom rescue herself and
Yes.
to become the strongest version of her. And that is your only job. And you are 100% capable of doing it. And there is something soul crushing and identity crashing about divorce. It hits every like cell in your body. And even from that, I guarantee you have the strength today to move forward and be the example for your children of what it looks like to be whole and calm and grounded and peaceful and loving. And that's your job here. So I hope you know that. And I believe it to be true. I know it to be true. And you just take one step at a time.
Yeah, I love that. That is so beautiful. So if people want to buy your book, learn more
Mhm.
about you, I will put all the links in the show notes, but tell them a little bit about where they could find more.
Yeah, so everything's just my name, which is Mikki Gardner. It's a little bit odd spelling, but M is in Mary, Ikki, Gardner, Gardner. So that's my website. That's me on Instagram. And then the Co-Parenting with Confidence podcast. I'm there weekly. So that is a great resource as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Mikki, thank you so much for being here, for sharing your light and your message. And I think that you're doing beautiful things. So thank
Oh,
you.
thank you. Thank you so much. And I should say that if it's coming out on December 5th,
Yeah.
the Kindle version, which you can read on any electronic device, is
Yes.
99 cents.
Yes.
So please grab that today, and you can also give that as a gift.
Yes.
So
And I'm going to be
easy
sending an
peasy.
email out as it gets
Awesome.
better. So people can click that link as well.
Thank you.
So
Thank
yeah,
you.
this is wonderful. So yeah, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Jill. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening. If you like what you hear, I would love it if you would share it with your friends and family and leave me a rating and review. If you'd like to learn more about what life coaching is, please schedule a free discovery call with me where we can work together through something that's causing you a problem. Just go to my website, seasons-coaching.com, and you can also find information about my Seasons of Joy one-on-one coaching program and my Seasons of Joy community. Have a joyful week, and I'll see you next time.